Good morning, students. In today's class, we'll be seeing about the topic called reproduction. Let's quickly get into the definition. Reproduction is a biological process. Biological means the process which occurs in living organisms, in which an organism, a living organism, reproduces, gives birth to. Reproduces means gives birth to an offspring, their young ones, which are similar to their parents. Okay, a cat will give birth to a cat, a dog will give birth to a dog, a human being will give birth to a human being. So, again, going to the definition, reproduction is a biological process in which an organism reproduces an offspring which is biologically similar to the parent. Now, getting into the key points of reproduction, it is a continuous process, it occurs continuously. Okay, it occurs in living organisms only. It is a fundamental process for life. It is a main process for life. If there is no reproduction, there will be no life. Okay. All organisms are formed because of reproduction. Okay. So we are all formed because of reproduction. If there is no reproduction, there will be no generation of young ones and there will be no existence of life. Now, coming to the types of reproduction. There are two types of reproduction. The first one is asexual reproduction and the second one is sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction involves only one parent. One parent is sufficient to produce the offspring in asexual reproduction, whereas in sexual reproduction, both the parents are required. A male parent as well as a female parent is required to produce the offspring. Second point, in asexual reproduction, the offsprings produced will be genetically identical to the parent because only one parent is involved in the production of offspring. So the offspring will be having the DNA of the single parent from which it has evolved. Whereas in sexual reproduction, the offspring, the young one, acquires the DNA from the male parent as well as the female parent. Okay, so there will be fusion. Okay, so the resulting offspring will be having the characteristics and the traits of both the male parent as well as the female parent. So the DNA will not be of male and will not be of female. It will be a mix and it will be a different copy of DNA which has been produced in sexual reproduction. So the offsprings of sexually reproduced sexually reproduced one will be having a different set of DNA from that of their parents. Okay, third point, the asexual reproduction happens only in unicellular organisms, lower grade organisms which has only one cell, example amoeba, whereas the sexual reproduction happens in multicellular or higher grade organisms, example human beings and animals. Coming to the fourth point in asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction takes less time, whereas sexual reproduction is a time-consuming process. Only one parent is involved here, so the time consumed for the production of offspring is very less. Whereas in sexual reproduction, two parents are involved and there will be fusion of gamete as well as there will be a gestational period where the mother carries the fetus in its womb and there will be gestational period. For human beings it is 9 months. So after 9 months only the offspring will be produced. So the same will be for other animals also. Whereas in asexual reproduction the time is less compared with sexual reproduction. Okay. In asexual reproduction, the offsprings produced are more susceptible to changes in the environment. They are affected to the changes which are occurring in the environment. They get disease and nutritional deficiencies very easily. Whereas in sexual reproduction, they can adapt to the changes in the environment because they are having the traits of both the father as well as the mother. So they are comparatively stronger. So they can adapt to the changes in the environment. Let's see about the asexual reproduction elaborately. Asexual reproduction occurs in many ways. So there are 6 ways given in our textbook. The first one is by fission. In fission, there are 2 types of fission. The first one is binary fission and the second one is multiple fission. And the second one is budding. Third one is spore formation. Fourth one is fragmentation. Fifth one, regeneration. Sixth one, this occurs in plants. Okay, so it can be either natural or artificial. So natural vegetative propagation occurs through root, stem and leaves. And artificial vegetative propagation occurs via cutting, grafting and layering. The first one in asexual reproduction which we are going to see is binary fission. The name itself indicates bi means two. Bi means two. So I have mentioned earlier that asexual reproduction mainly occurs in unicellular organisms. So here we have taken the example amoeba. So this parent cell, the parent amoeba, when it matures, when it grows and when it matures, it decides, okay, we had grown big, so it decides to divide into two. So what happens is the DNA, the deoxyribonucleic acid, the genetic material starts dividing. And along with the DNA, the cytoplasm also divides. A groove develops. Okay, so there will be an indentation in the amoeba. So it starts developing a groove. And after the groove development, the DNA and the cytoplasm divides into two. So one amoeba will become into two daughter amoeba. Okay, so division or splitting of one parent cell into two by. Bi means two. Each carrying a parent DNA is called binary fission. One is by multiple fission. So, the parasite called Plasmodium, it divides by multiple fission, and also this amoeba also divides by multiple fission sometimes. Okay, so in multiple fission one parent cell divides into many. Okay, so the nucleus starts dividing into many nuclei inside the cell, and each nuclei has the ability to develop into a new daughter cell. So if there are 4 nuclei inside the cells, by division, if it forms 4 nuclei inside the cells, the resulting daughter cells will be 4 in number. Okay. Okay, now the second type of asexual reproduction which we are going to see is budding. Okay, this budding takes place in a freshwater multicellular organism called hydra. So what is freshwater organism? It will not live in seawater, it will live only in freshwater like river. This hydra is basically 1 centimeter long, and this hydra starts reproducing asexually when it gets more nutrients, when there are more availability of food. Then the hydra will start reproducing asexually. The hydra will form a small bump, okay, small protruding at the base of the organism. So after receiving enough nutrients, the bud starts growing, and a small mouth appears at the middle of the bud. Okay, this is called as the mouth. The black point which I have mentioned here, that's the mouth. Okay, then the daughter hydra, it starts producing tentacles. Once when the bud grows fully, the bud will fall down and it attaches itself to the substratum, and it will start living as an individual organism. Okay, so for this budding to occur, the hydra requires favorable environmental conditions. The third type of asexual reproduction which we are going to see is by spore formation. Okay, saprophytic fungi called rhizopus and mucor, they reproduce by spore formation. So once when the mucor grows fully, the parent will start producing spores inside the sporangium. There will be lots of spores. Okay, the wall breaks and the spores are liberated. Okay, so these spores, they fall to the substratum. Okay, you could have seen in bread. So if the bread has been kept for a longer period, you can find green patches developing on the bread. Okay, those are nothing but spores. These spores, by wind, they are either carried by wind or by animals. So they come into contact with another substratum. When the favorable conditions are present, these spores, they develop into a new organism. So fragmentation, this is the third asexual method which we are going to see today. So this type of fragmentation method is followed by in an organism called Spirogyra. It is an algae, okay? It is an algae, it has chlorophyll and it is an autotroph. It can prepare its own food with the help of photosynthesis. The body of Spirogyra is divided into several fragments. So each fragment carries a nucleic acid. Okay, so if any damage happens to these fragments, the body of the Spirogyra, there are chances for the fragments to break. So each fragment, the broken fragment, will develop into a new individual Spirogyra. See, because of heavy flowing wind or water, this body has been broken. Okay, so this will become a new Spirogyra. The broken fragment will become a new Spirogyra, and the leftover fragment will also become a new Spirogyra. So there will be 3 individual Spirogyras. Okay. The new organism formed is genetically identical to the parent. Why? So this develops from the parent organism. Okay, so the parent will be having one set of DNA. The same DNA will be in this fragment also. So if this fragment develops into a new organism, it will be carrying the DNA of the parent only. Okay, then coming to the next method of asexual reproduction, that is regeneration. Don't get confused with fragmentation and regeneration, just observe carefully. Regeneration is the process by which the organism is able to produce the missing organ or the missing part. Okay, so example for this is planaria. Okay, the planaria has the ability to detach its body parts. Okay, so this planaria, mother planaria, is divided into 3 parts. And in regeneration, this organism planaria has specialized cells called regenerative cells. What cells? Regenerative cells. These regenerative cells are responsible for the development of new organisms, or it is responsible for the development of the missing parts. Okay, the head part is detached, and for the tail part to develop, this planaria should have the regenerative cells for the development of the body. Okay, similarly the thorax part is here, and the planaria should have the regenerative cells for the development of head as well as for the tail. Okay, and here the abdomen part is being detached, so the planaria should have the regenerative cells for the development of head and thorax. Okay, so if the regenerative cells are not present, so then the organism will not be able to develop the lost parts. Okay, the organism will die. So these specialized regenerative cells are responsible for the regrowth of a damaged or missing organ part from the remaining tissue. Now, going to vegetative propagation. This vegetative propagation occurs in plants. Okay, so as I have mentioned, there are 2 ways in which vegetative propagation occurs. One is natural and the other one is artificial. Natural is that it occurs by itself. Okay, there is no human interference in that. Whereas artificial is human interference will be there. We will be doing that method to propagate new plants. Natural method of vegetative propagation occurs through root, stem and leaf. So for root, the example for root is sweet potato. So the sweet potato has modified roots called tubers. Okay, so these tubers are the roots in sweet potato. How will the roots be in other plants? You could find taproot and primary, secondary, tertiary root. But as of in sweet potato, these are the root. The tubers are the root. They store nutrients and water for the growth of the plant. So okay, so these axillary buds are found in the root in sweet potato. Okay, then this roots will give rise to new shoot. Once if it matures, you can gently separate this shoot, and if you plant it into the soil, they'll develop into a new plant. Okay, the second type of vegetative propagation can be observed in stem. The example for vegetative propagation through stem, we can say potato. What is the difference between potato and sweet potato? Sweet potato is a tuber, it is a root. Okay, this potato is a stem. you could have observed in the kitchen, the potato, when they are kept for a longer time, it produces small green germinating eye-like bud. They are nothing but leaves. From where leaves arise? I have mentioned, right? Shoot only gives rise to leaves. So these are the leaves which are coming out of the shoot. So this is a stem. Potato is a stem. Okay. This type of propagation is commonly observed in horizontally growing stems. Horizontally means that which grow on land, grow on the ground. Okay, they are called as runners. Potato is a runner. Okay, buds are formed at the nodes. Okay, so these buds are formed at the nodes, which later develop into roots and shoots. The third one of vegetative propagation occurs through leaf. Example, bryophyllum. Okay, bryophyllum is a special kind of plant which has the leaves of the bryophyllum has the ability to produce new plants. Okay, so in the bryophyllum, the leaf margin will develop axillary buds. Okay, so this axillary bud will grow and it will produce a new plant. New plants grow from the buds growing on the leaf margins. So new plants develop from the leaf margins. See, you could see. This is the leaf margin and the new plants are developing from the leaf margin. These buds are reproductive in nature. If you gently remove this bud and if you plant it to the soil, or if they fall down on their own, if the substratum is suitable for its germination or for its growth, it will develop into a new plant. Okay. So example for vegetative propagation by leaf is bryophyllum.